Congress have been concerned by the situation at the nation's southern border for some time now. And tonight, Republican members of the House are ousting the man they believe is responsible.
Our Marla Lundak joins us at the 6 on Your Side alert desk with more on the historic impeachment vote. Marla?
John, Aaron, it's been 150 years since a cabinet secretary has been impeached from their position until tonight. In a 214 to 213 vote, U.S. House Republicans impeached Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. It's a storm that's been brewing over the handling of the border crisis since Republicans took the majority in the House back in 2022. House GOP members claim that Mayorkas has committed high crimes and misdemeanors for his handling of the border crisis, despite arguments from constitutional experts. They say he is responsible for the record number of crossings at the southern border. House Republicans have been seeking to hold the Biden administration accountable for the border crisis, which was one of his key campaign issues. They have threatened to impeach several other cabinet members too. President Biden responded tonight after the impeachment vote, saying, quote, "History will not look kindly on the House Republicans for their blatant act of unconstitutional partisanship that has targeted an honorable public servant in order to play petty political games." Members of the House are urging the Senate to take this impeachment seriously when considering next steps. But right now, experts believe it's unlikely that Mayorkas will also be impeached in the Democratic-controlled Senate. At the 6 on Your Side alert desk, Marla Lundak, 6 News.